Trini. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Michelle Veazey, and I'm the Executive Director of New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility. And I actually participated in the very first Conscious Business Leadership Program. And so I wanted to share a little bit about that, but also for those of you who don't know Trini and Deb, I also wanted to introduce them. They are two of the most amazing women that I work with, and so I am very excited to once again be doing this Conscious Business Leadership Program through them. So Trini Houghton and Deb LeClaire are really in my mind, leaders in this area, and have just been working for many, many years with different elements of conscious leadership. And so we're really excited to have them be the leaders of this program on our behalf. Certainly for NHBSR, a program like this is, we feel like right in our alley, because so many of the companies that are a part of NHBSR really care about, how they bring themselves to their community of their workplace and also their communities. And so to me, this was just a natural for us to offer when Deb and Trini introduced the idea a while ago. As I said, I did take part in the leadership program last year with a lot of other, great leaders. And I have to say, as one of our board members, Brett Cromwell from Medtronic said, like, who knew when we took this leadership program that it would be so vital to our being able to kind of, pivot, be dynamic, and really thrive in the midst of COVID. But it really, I think we finished up like in April, didn't March? No, March.
February.
February, all right.
Yeah,
So it was right before,
yeah.
But it was like, going into this, it just prepared us all so well. It gave us the tools that we needed to really be able to, approach challenges differently. I was just saying, I was showing, when I was thinking about this, I showed Deb and Trini, one of the books that I read last year was this one. And it was like, every page was like a mirror of myself and the way I approach leadership, and working with so many amazing businesses in NHBSR. I'm constantly aware of how I show up. And so I just can't say enough about the things that I learned and the tools that I gained, and the way that it gave me a chance to learn to pause and to think, more mindfully about everything I was doing, thinking about how I was reacting to things either above or below the line, and, just in all kinds of interactions. So for me, it has really shifted the way I do things. And, I really want to thank Deb and Trini for that. And so I highly recommend the program, and hope you all will find it of interest as well. But with that, I'd love to turn it over to Deb and Trini so that they can share a little bit more and answer all of your questions. So that's the other, I did want to mention, we are recording this, so if you want to share the recording with anyone else in your organizations. Something that I noticed last year that I wanted to mention was that one of our companies, a CEO and the person who was going to be taking over the company came together, and it was really interesting to see their perspective and how, kind of having both of them learning the same topics and kind of understanding the lens that they were looking at things through created a really interesting dynamic. And so I did want to say that if you have an interest in bringing someone from your company with you, that it I think is a very interesting approach to this program, and definitely valuable. So with that, I'll turn it over to Trini and Deb. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, we loved having you in the program, and we're very much looking forward to this next one. And also, Ashley, definitely bring your kitty. Definitely bring your kitty. Something coming. We would love that. We would love that. All animals welcome. So I think what we'll do is we're going to talk a little bit about our whys, about why we're doing this program, why now, what it's about. We'll get into the actual flow of the program, and then we'll get into some of the logistics and then answer any questions that you guys might have. So for me, I have always really had a mission to help people around not dreading work and even moving past that and actually finding great meaning in work and really feeling fulfilled by your work. So many people are miserable. So Trini actually introduced me to this idea of conscious leadership a while back. And I absolutely fell in love with this idea of basically, and I think you guys, we've seen this, we see it on the news, is business waking up to itself and realizing, wow, we can be a force for good. And not just to look good, not just, oh, we're going to do a charitable donation here and that. It's to know what's really, we can really impact lives. And that idea to me is kind of supremely exciting. So to me, this conscious leadership felt very much like it's both, because you're really working from the inside out. And when you go out, it's so powerful when inside has been really fortified, strengthened, and gets a chance to grow. That's a really big piece for us. So when you start to see that, I've seen that some so amazing things happen when people really do feel that empowerment, and then they bring it outside to their people and to their communities, and even down to their vendor lines and their, you know, their supply chains, and to see some of that happening. That's where it feels like things are really going and need to go, and that we wanted to support that. Trini?
Great, and hello everybody. I'm Trini, and you know, really quickly, I just wanted you to know that I'm very committed to well-being and into what I call a feminine model of leadership, and modeling that a bit more for leaders, for people. That's not a female model, but a more feminine. What I mean by that is like self-awareness, social awareness, other, community, humanity, our climate, all of those pieces. And it's just to make it more in balance with our masculine parts of leadership. And we have both. So being able to bring this in balance just means a great deal to me. And I think it all started internally for me back in the fall of 2015. I took a leadership course in our program, and I was on a high ropes, one of those high ropes courses. And okay, never been on one. And you should know that I have a fear of heights, like deathly fear. But I had to go up this thing, and I had to cross this log. And, you know, your teammates are cheering you from below and cheering you from the other side. And I'm like, I'm an athlete. I'll get over this thing. There's no problem. I'm just going to muscle my way over, dance my way over, or just walk slowly. I couldn't move. Fear gripped me. I wasn't taking any steps. My heart was racing. I had a dry mouth. I was frozen. And all I want to do is get down. I really didn't want to do it, but I couldn't. Like, this is my team. This is the whole exercise. It was a whole learning for me. And in that moment, I realized I have got to find a sense of calm. I've got to find this inside of me to be able to just take a step to get over the log. And I don't know where it came from. I still to this day wonder what happened, but literally started to just find a breath, and one breath after another, calmed myself down enough to get very slowly over this log. And what I realized then and there was that my fear was not going to go away. My fear of heights, right? That was always going to be there. It still is there. I'm on a ski lift. I sweat. I am scared of heights. But I have now a tool through my own breath and my own body to help me with this. And I know it sounds very simplistic, but until you go through it, when you have a real fear, I could not appreciate it like I did. So what I found was being with the unknown, being with fear, being with uncertainty, being with newness, all of that, trying to muscle or conquer it or push it down or push it away wasn't going to work. But what was going to work was, how can I be with it just as it's happening? And that's what I learned. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do to help people figure this out, because this is what this is why we're all here. What our world is emerging into, all these new things. How do we just be with it as we're leading our companies? And this is a different way to lead. This is, in my opinion, this is a more feminine model of leadership, by being able to be with an expansiveness of leadership. So my reason d'etre to do this work is to help prepare ourselves, to train ourselves, so that we're able to create these pockets of sanity, if you will, as our world happens around us and within us. Create allies, create bonds, so that we can help each other, create community in a real way, lead businesses differently, for good. So I think this program does this. Deb and I have had a blast putting it together. We had a blast last year. We make it fun. It's experiential. And we work with real stuff that comes up for people. So we're very much looking forward to the program this year.
So maybe we can go through the different areas that we have some
Let's give you a
slides.
sense of the program on the slides. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things happening outside of here. So thank you, Deb. We're moving then into uncommon agility, honing uncommon agility. And this is really our ability to flex with things, right? Instead of reacting to things, how do we become more respond able or responsible for how we respond to things? We talk about what is enough, right? In this world of accumulation of things, what is enough? And what are the edges of that? And getting a sense of that. Need I say more about diversity, equity, and inclusion? This is a cornerstone of conscious leadership. We are so pleased to be able to offer it this year. We're putting 2 sessions in with it. It is a cornerstone of business today and of the conversation today. So we're going to do a deep dive into that. And then winding it up with making it sustainable and weaving what we call courageous consciousness. So making it sustainable, how does this not become something on your shelf, but actually things that you are incorporating day to day? And the irony is you will, by doing all of these things throughout the program, you will begin to get it in your system and then make it sustainable, meaning like how do you carry it out into your companies? How do you carry it out into your people that you interact with? So it kind of goes out, and that is the sustainability piece of it. Courageous consciousness, meaning how do you begin again and again? Like, this is not a check your box kind of leadership. I did the program, done. No, this is like, oh my gosh, I have another challenge. You know, let's just say COVID just happened. Where do I go? You know, what do I do? And there's courage in that. That's all courage. You feel the fear and you make the steps, right? So we talk about that. And I just want to name, like, we use weave here, and I'm so glad there's an image with a kind of a weave in here, because this whole program is meant to weave together. With courageous consciousness, we're weaving back into developing your new vision. Like, how does that sit? How does that sit with you now that you've gone through the program? So we pull from each session into the next, as Deb said, mindfulness kind of being one of those threads that carry through. Great. Shall we go to the next slide, Deb, and then they can have some questions, time for questions. Beautiful. All right, so our program is beginning on January 21st. It's an online program this year. We meet about twice a month for 2.5 hours. We find that is optimal for Zoom time and getting the most out of everybody without exhausting for the whole day. You all know this by now.
Yeah, and as we go through, we'll also be working with, there's always opportunity for, we're seeing this as a tribe. It certainly was the last year we did it, where we want to hear what's going on for you in real time and to bring that into the group and to have us, we can look at it through the lens of what we're working with, but also just apply the tools that we've been working with too. And you get all the input of the people in the group. We found that pretty invaluable. And also what goes with that is we'll be doing core projects. So this is a real issue or real thing that you either wanted to work on all this time, or you already are working on in your organization or in your own leadership. And we're going to be doing it a little at a time as we go through. It's an opportunity for you to apply your learning, your new skills, any knowledge, any paradigm shifts. And this is especially effective if you're coming in with any kind of team. And that also, we also find that gives a nice return on investment. But more importantly than that, I think it makes the learning real, and it then stays with you as you go through, because now you've applied it and tried it in your own organizations, your own leadership.
You'll see the fees there. Strongly encouraging, if you're not yet members, to become members of NHBSR. Maybe you already are. This fee is it's actually exceptionally reasonable for a leadership program. They're usually some are hundreds of thousands of dollars, some are $50,000 for a 6-month in-depth program. And there is a 20% discount if you bring another member from your organization or team. We find that, again, it's the sort of like having 2 or more is helpful in terms of continuing the sustainability, continuing the conversation, and also already collaborating together on what you're learning. So really willing to give you all the discounts for that if you bring someone along. And we just ask that you register by the 15th, so we know who will be there and to prepare our last bits there. There is the link. If you type that in, it'll take you right to the page that you can find out more information about it. Okay.
So why don't we open it up to any questions that you guys might have? Would be very happy to answer them.
Is it all right if I ask a question someone that's not on today asked me to explain to them? Yeah, so they were asking how this is different from a regular leadership program.
Jenny, I'll start if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see this is definitely a more holistic kind of program. This is very much working from the inside out. And I think we work a lot with the concept of meaningfulness. So the work that we're doing, not just in the program, but the work in terms of how you're doing it as a leader, is the idea here is how do you make it meaningful? How do you actually bring this out into the world in a meaningful way? And the meaningfulness is very much linked to how fulfilled do you feel as a leader, and then as a person within your organization, seeing what the organization can do. So it's very much geared towards that, as well as the conscious leadership principles and the idea of the triple bottom line, which is, people, planet, and profits.
Right. The way I distinguish it best is that instead of doing leadership, this is about being in your leadership. That's really a primary difference for me as I explain it. And then I will tell you, I have dropped components of conscious leadership in leadership programs, other ones, the more traditional ones that I've done. And these are the ones people take home. These are the ones people want to know more about. They are the ones that they're like, we loved it. It's something about the being part in leadership that seems to last and be valuable. Thank you. Ashley, did you have your mute off? So I was just checking in with you. Do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm super, super excited and hoping to join. I had a couple questions. One more tactical, how much work is between sessions is question number 1. And then question 2 was just sort of a gut check for me. Trini and Michelle, a little bit about the direction I'm going. So I'm leaving over a decade in leading corporate responsibility globally, because I believe that this is what you're doing here and around conscious leadership is what we need in order to reframe business for good. And so I'm becoming a conscious leadership coach myself, and I'm starting my own practice and moving to Sri Lanka. So I just want to make sure that this also aligns with someone beginning their own thing around this topic. Not I wouldn't be joining for the purposes of using it with my current employer, Kolhan. So just wanted to make sure that was okay, good use of the program and all that, and then the amount of time in between sessions that might be required outside of meeting.
Yeah, I would definitely say that this would work well for this. There's going to be a lot of probably a lot of nice things you can see if, do I want to use this? Do I want to, take this into my work? And also there's always nice because it's conversations. So it's also like kind of getting a chance to see how the conversations go when you actually take something out of a book or a concept and bring it into real people talking about it. It can be really helpful. The work in between, there's definitely some homework in between. But we just know we're very sensitive also to people's time constraints and things like that. We will be asking for feedback as we go. But there'll always be some sense of reading. Usually it's just a couple of chapters. We're not asking people to usually read whole books, in between, because there'll be about 2 weeks in between each session. So there'll be some reading. Sometimes we'll have video, and usually it'll be something like a worksheet, where you kind of deep dive questions. And I think we'll also, Trini and I have also let it be open where sometimes we've actually had some people, because we've done other leadership programs, and like we said, we do sneak in the conscious leadership sometimes into it. sometimes there's a real active element of the homework. And sometimes people have asked, they've kind of like, hey, we really want to work on this. How about this? So we're very open to things happening spontaneous, not so much spontaneously, but just really for authentically within that particular chemistry of that group. And then that becoming some of the homework too, or some of the application.
Right. We really don't want you all to have to, we know you're meeting more frequently this time. So we don't want a heavy lift in between because we know you'll be meeting again. So we'll be able to carry things directly. So I think that will go down. We had a homework component last time, but I think, like Deb says, it will be something very simple to do to keep a light touch between the meetings, like a chapter or two to read or something on your core project. And then I think the conscious coaching, I mean, this is going to give you some of the tools that you might be able to just to use, like start to use with your clients, start to already put into play. So I just think there's so much naturalness, natural fit, and organic fit to that, especially. And I don't care where you're living. Sri Lanka is phenomenal. Like, oh my gosh, just get the timing right, you know? That's it. But if you can be online and have, you know, Wi-Fi, I would love to have you here. How cool would that be?
That's the hope. So yeah, and even if there was a replay for part of it, anyway, logistics can be figured out. But yes, I will. And it seems like this is a great fit.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say hi quickly to Dee Cleary. I know you jumped on a little bit late, Dee. I wanted to let you know that Molly is recording this. So yeah, so you can, we'll make sure that you get the recording to hear the first part. So I did want to also mention that the URL on the end, instead of CBL, it should actually be the word lead.
That's sorry. Our bad. Sorry. That's from last year.
Just so that everybody doesn't get sent down the wrong trail. But I also, there are a couple of other questions that have come to me, and I'm just wondering if maybe the group would like to hear them too. So people have asked me what I walked away with, and I shared that at the beginning, but maybe you can share, Trini or Deb, like, you know, others may have shared with you what they walked away with, like what is the purpose that you're focusing on for everyone attending?
Yeah, so I have found people walk away with a greater sense of their authentic leadership, if that makes sense. It's not like you're having to try to be something you're not or an ideal. I mean, that's just exhausting, you know, but to just be with yourself and finding your voice and finding how your body is arranged around that and finding how, like, who you are as a leader and owning it with everything in that, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know. So there's a greater, I think I would say a greater sense of authenticity. With that comes, I saw a few folks take, like through the core projects, take a bit of a risk, but be super supported by the group. We had one group work on eliminating single plastic uses in manufacturing. And that was just something to see them work through that and the challenges that they had to figure that out, how to do it. It created such a lift in the group. So there is a sense of inspiration, I would also add, that goes along with it. So your own authenticity, ability to take a risk and be okay, like you didn't die, you know, you're able to continue forward, and then again be with helping, like feel that sense of support as you're doing that, and be inspired by other people's actions.
Yeah, I can definitely second that, because having been in the business world for sorry to say 40 years now, it's like, you know, it was learning a lot about myself and how, you know, just exploring my leadership and how I can improve. So a lot of self journey.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, another thing I've seen is people will say I'm learning how to let things work through me instead of everything has to be by me. You know, I've got to control everything and make sure everything is this, that, and being exhausted all the time, realizing how do I let my people do some of their own stuff? How do I again just be more of a sounding board and and a supporter and an empowerer instead of the doer all the time. That's another piece to that.
Great question.
Does anyone have a question that they'd like to ask?
So I missed the whole thing. I'm so sorry. So, as far as a membership, is that for one person in a company, or how many people? I mean, is it a group that participates? I'm trying to, like this last slide is the closing statement, right? So I was just curious what that entails, the $3,000 a month for members.
It's a $3,000 for the program, actually.
Program.
Yeah.
So the whole 6 months is $3,000. That's for one person to go through.
Okay.
For members, and then, but if you bring someone with you from your organization, you can get a 20% discount off of that. Yeah. You both would. Like you each would pay 20% less. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What other questions? Yes. Michelle, you had your.
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Sorry, I'm on an iPad, so I can't see myself. All I can see is your screen now. I'm not part of the new, I guess I'm not even sure.
NHBS Mark?
Yeah, thank you.
No, it's a lot.
I've worked with Heather a little bit individually, and she mentioned this to me as kind of a group setting of what to do with conscious leadership as a potential next step. And so I guess I just wanted to find out your thoughts around that. If I'm not part of the group, if it's still worthwhile, not as much, or if the homework and the things that are geared to it are really specific to that, to the New Hampshire group or not, I guess is kind of all of my questions.
Yeah, I think it's fine. In fact, we've also reached out, especially because we're doing it online. We can take anybody from anywhere. So it's I think we're looking to get people from Vermont and things like that. But being just a person on your own, that works well too. In fact, that was the majority of the group last time. So I think it works either way. And again, what's nice is you develop your own tribe. So it's almost like you do have your own sounding board, and you have Trini and I as well. So, whatever you're working on, whether it's completely internal, not yet born, or it's out in the world, it's doing stuff and you're trying to make some shifts and changes to it. I think it applies to all of that. I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. And if it's something that draws you, you're absolutely, then that's, it doesn't matter so long as you have an interest in the topic and an interest in these kinds of ways of being and leading. Yeah.
But Michelle, if you do want to become a member, you do get the discount. It's less. The difference between the two amounts, your membership would be less than that. So you would save some money and become a member. But the other thing is that I wanted to let you know that NHBSR members are super inclusive. So even, it's just a great group of people to work with. I think you would find that they're all, just really love to connect with one another, and not at all a situation where, I think that you would feel like kind of on the outside looking in. It's not that kind of a group at all. So I know last year it was just a lot of fun.
And there were people there who I believe were not members and joined.
Correct.
Felt
Yep.
very, very much a part of the group. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I have one other question. So I think I did a little online research and it said up to 25 people. So what happens if the group is only like 5 people? Do you still do it, or is there a minimum? I saw the maximum. I just wasn't sure the other end of the spectrum.
Quite honestly, this has been something we have weighed because this is an online kind of program. 25 is to make sure that everybody had a chance to talk. And when Deb and I have done our preliminary talks about it, we would love to have it at a minimum around 10 that we feel like everybody gets to know. But truth be told, we have to see who comes up. We won't do it for 3 people, and that's just not enough to get enough of the richness of the program. So we're aiming for 10, and I think we can get that this year, especially given the online venue. So, but thank you for asking. These are good questions.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Anything else, Michelle, on that, or did that
Oh, that's
answer your
good, thank you.
question? Okay, all right.
Yep, sorry.
Anybody else? No, it's fine. Okay.
Awesome.
I do have a question that just occurred to me. You gave an example of the single-use plastics as one core project. Is there another one or two core project examples that you could share from last year?
I could share
yeah,
mine.
Michelle.
So one of the things I had been working on, and it just kept getting pushed back in mostly because of my own mind, was we had been, as a board, had been working on our mission, vision, values, and it just felt kind of overwhelming to me and so important that I had a hard time kind of taking it to the finish line. And so that was the project I committed to doing within this program. And it was just amazing, such an incredible group and a way of supporting me beyond the things that I was concerned about, that I was able to bring that final project to the board, and they were thrilled with it. So I'm trying to think of what else people were doing.
There's one who did was it a rejuvenation policy? She put that in her for her HR. I think that was Heather's, I think. And she was inspired by another member's, that they had it in their company, a rejuvenation leave, I think, that you could take, and then it was really paid leave, but you had to go take care of yourself. And so she's like, I want to do that for my company. So she started talking about how to do that. We had another person work on their HR policy, but I am blanking on what it was. You remember, Deb?
I remember the exact same things you do, and I can't remember what the actual policy was, but it was HR, and she was the one who initially inspired the other one to work on the rejuvenation.
Yes.
This other one was another HR initiative that she was working on.
Right.
There was another one that was trying to work on like their regular meetings and how they all came to the meetings. So kind of help people with using some of the tools that we went through as part of the program.
Yeah, to improve communication, get people to really share, to feel that they could take a risk, things like that.
Right, because there was a company that was at least partially employee owned. I can't remember exactly what their structure was, but so there were some really cool projects that.
They ran the gamut from like communication to single use. I mean, the whole.
Is the project a group project or is it an individual?
This year we're going to hope. Yeah, we're going to make it either or, just depending on what people want. Some people, if you come from the same company, it makes it easy to do a group core project, right? If you and another person have something same interest and you both decide, hey, let's go do this together, great.
Okay.
So yeah. Good.
Any last questions?
Well, awesome. Well, I did want to say, I mean, you all know that we recorded this, so it is available if you want to kind of go through it again. But Trini and Deb, I know you will both be open to questions from anyone. So would love to have, I hope all of you are interested in joining, but would definitely, love to have you share the information with anyone else too, if you feel like there's someone that might also be interested. And I think I did want to mention that I took down your PowerPoint, but the goal is to have registrations in by mid-January, right? The final
15th. Yep.
January 15th,
yeah.
Right. Yep.
All right.
So we hope to see you all there. Thanks for taking the time today.
Yes, thank you for coming today.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Good. All right. Ciao, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
See you.